Top 5 Wednesday. So Top 5 Wednesday is a Goodreads group moderated by Ginger Reads Laney and Mindy Reads, and I'll post a link to the Goodreads group in the description bar down below. So the topic for this week is the top 5 genres. Coming in at number 5 for me is humor / satire. I really enjoy a good laugh. I mean, everyone does, right? And I really find that humorous books, and specifically satirical books, really let you look at things critically and differently. You have to be prepared to be offended by these books. You know, I really like books that challenge the way I think, and that make me laugh at it at the same time and realize that maybe it's not so serious, you know? And I find the writing in humorous books tend to be really easy to read. So for example, we have Will Ferguson, a great Canadian humorist. He wrote How to Be Canadian, which is obviously a satirical book, as well as Happiness Trademark, which is kind of a satire at the dystopian genre. And then we have authors like Kurt Vonnegut, who everyone knows and loves, and Neil Gaiman, who is also very funny and witty in his writing. Coming at number 4 is fantasy. They're just epic stories of adventures and overcoming adversity, and I really like the Neil Gaiman quote, "Fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten." And I think fantasy is such a good diving into point for new readers, and even for old readers. There's just so much out there. If we think about some of the classics in literature, I mean, we're thinking about Lord of the Rings, we're thinking about Narnia. Everyone, you know, loves Harry Potter. These are just epic fantasy adventures that take you away into a new world. And I really like fantasy. Coming in at number 3 is experimental. The experimental, I don't know if it's really a genre, I'm kind of probably cheating here, but I really like experimental books. Books that concentrate on innovating new techniques. And they're not just straightforward storytelling. They involve the reader in the book, and they make reading an effort. They really make it an experience. And it's amazing to see the effort that some authors have put into their books. You know, we see Ulysses, where every chapter is told in a different way. I don't want to degrade other authors, but, you know, it probably took a lot more effort to tell the story that he does, but in a different way each time. Or just even the effort that was put into House of Leaves by Mark C. Danilewski. I mean, you could see my review of it, I'll link that down below. But there's just so much put into it that you can't help but admire these authors and what they're doing for literature. Because if it wasn't for these different innovations, we'd still be stuck reading the same books, you know, the same stories, the same way that we used to read. Coming in at number 2 are classics. Again, I'm kind of cheating with this because there's many subgenres within classics. I generally think of classics, anything kind of written before the 1900s. These are the ones that started it all. the authors in these books know how to work the language and the grammar in a way that I think is really not appreciated these days, that's really misunderstood these days. They knew that you can insert an exclamation mark into the middle of a sentence, that you can end with a preposition, that, you know, you can begin a sentence with and or but. This was before we got all these kind of ridiculous rules drilled into our heads in school. And I think they really are able to use the language in their own way that, you know, is not tied by, they're tied by rules, but they're the real rules of the language. I don't want to come across sounding as pompous, but that's kind of what I want to say. So, of course, you know, we can't help but mention that French classics are probably my favorite. I mean, I love Alexandre Dumas and the way he's just able to tell these epic tales of royalty and everything. And then we get the Russian literature, which is complete opposite. We see all the depression and the winter and these kind of nihilistic view of the world. And then the English, you know, fascination with the city versus the country, and just every country manages to show themselves in their classic literature. So, my all-time favorite genre has to be science fiction. Where can I start? I mean, there's all these different subgenres, again, within science fiction. I mean, we have dystopian, utopian, obviously we have hard science fiction with the aliens and the space travel, and we have soft science fiction, and we have cyberpunk and steampunk, and etc, and etc, and etc. But I think what it really boils down to for me, and with science fiction, is all literature, I believe, is concentrated on the one question of what does it mean to be human. And I think science fiction really takes that to a whole other level. They really, you know, in hard science fiction say it's, you know, what separates us from the aliens, if anything. You know, is it Earth that makes us human, or is it, you know, society, or is it something innate within us? And then you get something such as cyberpunk, where we look at humans' connection with technology, and how does technology affect what it means to be human. And again, with dystopian, you know, if we're put into these very stressful situations, how should humans act? And I really think science fiction just does a wonderful job with that, and that it is, you know, it is so wide-ranging that it could appeal to almost anyone. Whether you're more interested in looking at kind of like a steampunk kind of view of the world, which, you know, has a bit of history put into it, or a lot of the YA dystopians have romance in them, or if you're looking at classics, there's a lot of great classic science fiction authors out there too, like H.G. Wells, and we have John Wyndham, and Brave New World, 1984, all these wonderful science fiction novels that I think everyone should read. And I'm very passionate about science fiction, and I believe in every format, in movies, in TVs, in literature, that it is wonderful. It is a wonderful, not only just escape, but you get the outer world, but you get to look inside as well. So a really good science fiction book allows you to escape, but also makes you think about yourself. Yes. So let me know down below if you do Top 5 Wednesday, if you agree with my list, what sort of genres you really enjoy, which ones you're most passionate about, or maybe even just like genres that you hate. That's totally legitimate too. I thought I'd hate romance books and then I read Sarah Dessen, and then I thought I wasn't very big fan of historical novels, and I read Orenda, and now I'm just like, I really want to read more books about pre-Confederation Canada. So there's just, you know, wonderful genres out there to explore, and I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone's videos. So remember to keep on reading.